Hello, welcome to Astrology and Cinema in Real Life. It is my great pleasure to have one of my most admired writers, and that is Matthew Currie. Uh, when I first became a kind of a serious astrologer, Matthew was putting all this stuff out on BeliefNet, and I was a faithful reader. And I loved the controversy he created, and I loved the intelligence that he brought to the astrology world. So, Matthew, thank you so much for joining me. I'm happy that you're here.
Well, I have to turn off the camera because you made me blush. Thank you. It's it is great to be here.
In my palace.
Yeah, it is awesome. And by the way, I'm not actually a hunchback. It's just I had a very strange situation with setting up my laptop today. So
It's okay.
normally I sit
We
upright
we won't
and
tell people you're lying on your bed.
well well, I guess it's time for me to start taking pictures for my OnlyFans account. So
Matthew, can you talk a little bit about the work that you do and maybe a little bit about what you hope to get to? I mean, any future aspirations that you have? Just tell, I know all about you, obviously. I've met you in person quite a few times and I like I say, follow your work. So, but maybe tell people, what you do.
I'm an astrologer, and specifically, if there's anyone in the audience who likes astrology, it's why would they be here otherwise? Um,
You might be
I
surprised.
yeah, I just
You're
kind of think,
lying on your bed, Matthew. I mean,
oh yeah,
you
it's like
mentioned OnlyFans.
I'll dim the lights a little. Um, and this, as far as the work I do, I've always kind of thought of myself as like a general practitioner astrologer. I mean, I can go off on tangents about Vedic astrology or whole sign houses or whatever, but mostly I like getting people up there on the hoist and finding out where that rattling noise is, and then get them down and send them on the road. Is that what I do, or is that the style in which I do it?
Well, the advantage of astrology is that, you are able to identify quickly, where people are having difficulties, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this kind of podcast.
Yeah,
Because, what I found was that, it's not an arbitrary thing when somebody chooses a role and they identify with the person. And I think that you've chosen a really interesting film, which I'll put it up in a second, and you can tell me why you like this film, and I'll talk a little bit about why I love this film, and then we'll look at the charts.
yeah.
Give me a second. I'm going to share the screen.
Yeah.
So, Matthew has told me that he loves this film, Catch Me If You Can. This was, you know, so fast paced. And, I cannot believe what this guy got away with. I mean, you can tell the story, Matthew.
So anyway, we got this kid in high school who was too smart for his own good, and basically took up a life of forgery and international travel, posing as at various times a surgeon, an airline pilot, all without any qualifications. And he traveled the world and had a great time at it until he got caught. But then he turned it into a job for the FBI. And that, ladies and gentlemen, something sounds very Sagittarius to me about all that.
Oh, wait, we got the story of a lifetime. You won't believe this. Okay, so I don't think Matthew has looked at the charts, but we're going to see in a second. Now, um, so we have Tom Hanks in this film as well. Now, one of the criterion I have for um, Mirror Mirror was that the person that we're telling the story about has to be real enough that we can actually follow his astrology chart. Now, the person Tom Hanks plays is kind of like a mix of different things. He's not a real, he's a real person, but not a real person, if that makes any sense. Whereas Leonardo DiCaprio is playing Frank Abagnale Jr. So let's look at the chart of dear old Frank and see what we can find. So, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Well, I where'd you go here? You know, the most interesting thing standing out at me is we got a Taurus and with Moon in Sagittarius. And that, in my experience, has always been a really, yeah, anyway, if you want stability, you might want to look elsewhere because I love my Tauruses, but somehow when you combine it with Moon in Sagittarius, it's off the rails somehow. In this case, though, he's well, I don't think we know the exact time, do we?
No, no, and that's important. Thank you for reminding me. We're working with a noon chart. So the moon could be in Capricorn, but probably is in Sagittarius for a lot of different reasons. And we got to
Yeah.
be careful of those ascendants. So the chart is set to noon.
Well, and even if it was later in the day like that, even if the moon was in Capricorn, it would still be in pretty close range of conjunction to Jupiter. So either way, I would think that this person has a real yeehaw, ride 'em cowboy approach to life. And I I could talk about this thing for ages, but I don't want to discourage anyone from seeing it who hasn't already.
Oh no, don't worry about it. Spoiler alerts everywhere. It's okay.
Okay.
And bear in mind this movie is over 20 years old. I remember my parents talking about old films when I was a kid, and they were black and white and maybe even not even talkies. No, no, I'm not that old. But no, it's fine. This movie's out there enough that we can talk about what happens.
Yeah, and it's I love the okay, well Spielberg is I hear a pretty good director. But I think this one of his is really underrated. Really underrated.
Yeah, but it still had a lot of the snazziness. If you look at some of the cinematography, that was still there. There was I don't think that it really had the marketing to make it into something that was going to be a blockbuster. Not nevertheless, I think it was popular enough. It recovered its costs, which I think is important. And one thing I'd like to point out, we talked a little bit, but we anticipated Sagittarius. So we got that lovely Jupiter conjunct the moon using the noon chart. This is a slippery character. And even though we have Sun in Taurus, it's conjunct Mercury, and Mercury was a trickster in astrology. So we got this sort of overconfident, very clever guy on top of this, I want to make money and I'll do it any way I can as well with the planets in Taurus. And may I also point out that Pluto, Saturn, that backbone of steel, he had the chutzpah to get away with it or to try to
Yeah,
get away with it.
yeah. And another thing that really sticks out with me is you've got the Venus Uranus conjunction in Mercury, getting the sextile from Mars in Leo, and both the rulers of both of those signs are the Sun and Mercury in Taurus. When you get a
Yeah.
feedback loop like that, where the Sun is in a sign ruled by Venus and Venus is in a sign ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in a ruled by Venus, when I put this particular combination all together, I think this guy is going to be one crazy thrill seeker. Like he was just never going to be happy with the 9 to 5 accounting job and the 2.5 children.
But isn't it funny that that's exactly where he landed? He
Oh yeah,
ended up being the informant and
yeah,
being the guy who used all the cleverness that he acquired into actually trapping other criminals. And
yeah,
I just want to clarify. So I want to use my cursor to point out what Matthew was saying. So we have Venus conjunct Uranus in Gemini. and that is ruled by Mercury, which is here, conjunct the sun in Taurus. And the feedback loop is the sun in Taurus, and these planets down here ruled by the sun. And these planets are ruled in by Leo with the sun. So there's a talk about a feedback loop. So yeah, there is that sort of it's the flaming of the fanning of the flames, I think, of that cleverness. But I want to come back to that chutzpah of getting into that jet and flying the jet with all these people in it. And I'd be scared to steal somebody's bike, let alone get into a commercial airline and fly it anywhere. But I don't know. I can't even imagine. But he did it.
I think if I was in that situation, turn to my co-pilot and say, sorry, it's been a while. Which one's the autopilot button?
I think he
Okay.
did. He did ask a flight attendant, where's the jump seat
Yeah.
when he came in. Oh, it's been a while since I've been here. Which one is a jump seat? You know, um, he had that that way of using people too to get what he wanted. I
Yeah.
just find it fascinating. He earned so much money in his lifetime. I mean, I don't know about you, Bessie, but I live in a palace. No, I live in a flat in London, where, I just kind of think sometimes to myself, wow, I wish I had the talent to make money. This guy had it. He earned so much money.
Oh
We
yeah.
could kind of surmise maybe he may have maybe second or eighth house planets. We're going to do rectify this chart, which we're not going to do. But this guy, you know, making that much money at a young age, even if he had to steal it. And let's bear in mind the story about Mercury stealing Apollo's cattle.
Right. Right. And you just, you know, I don't know if this is gonna be sound terrible to you or not, but I remember the first time I saw this, I thought, hey, that was pretty good. I thought about it for a bit and I said, did I miss my calling in life?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bloody school teacher, right?
Yeah.
You know, I often think that these days. What have I
Yeah.
what have I done wrong in my life? But no, I'm just kidding. I don't feel that way at all. Okay, shall we go into the synastry? Now, the
Yeah.
next bit, we're going to look at, Leonardo DiCaprio played Frank Abagnale, but what was it about him that allowed him to step into these very slimy shoes? So let's have a minute to find ourselves in this chart. So this is Frank in the middle now, in the center, and then we have Leo on the outside. But we have to remember that Frank's chart is a noon chart, and the way solar fire is, I can't get rid of the MC on a noon chart when I'm using a biwheel. At least I haven't figured it out yet. And the reason why I know this, and my publisher will have a good laugh about this, is because my book actually contains 100 films, over 100 films, about 500 charts. And so we did a lot of bi-wheels and tri-wheels, and a lot of
Yeah.
those we had to redo over and over again to get the right planets and right angles in there. And so I know this from experience. Just trust me on this. So be careful. But Leonardo's chart is timed, and that's on the outside. And we have an IC in Capricorn for Leo, dissociate, not in the same sign, but still conjunct
Yeah.
Frank's Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter is in its rulership.
And with that connection between well, it's conjunct the I, conjunct Leonardo's IC. But of course, if anything's conjunct the IC, it's opposite the midheaven. And you could almost make a case for this being like literally meaning, oh, you should meet this Abagnale guy. He'll be good for your career. And I know DiCaprio got a lot of attention for this thing, but did he win an Oscar for this
I
one?
think he was nominated.
I think this is,
Um, what's funny about Leo is that he has Jupiter in Pisces. Let me point it out down here, Jupiter and Pisces here. On his Jupiter return, second Jupiter return, he was in Titanic, which I think is
Okay.
really funny. I always use it as a joke when I'm doing my lectures that, here we got this guy, Jupiter in Pisces, Jupiter in its rulership about a ship sinking and he drowns. Um,
Yeah.
romantically and hopelessly in love.
Hanging on to that door like a fool.
And
Um,
how many times we talk about did he have to drown? couldn't Rose have just scooted over a little bit and let him on the door
yeah,
as
she
well.
could have come to think of it. Hey,
Okay, and what I found in looking at over 200 films for Mirror Mirror was that the nodes are often implicated. And here we have Leonardo's sun in Scorpio, money, um, almost a little few degrees off that south node in Frank's chart. So there's that connection, that understanding, and some of Leo's films have had to do with finances, Wolf of Wall Street,
yeah,
and a few others, to do with gaining money quickly or gaining money through manipulation. Uh, Not saying that that's Leo's character. I'm just saying those are the parts that he plays. So,
yeah,
maybe this film, Catch Me If You Can, gave him that taste for playing those roles.
yeah. And it just, I'm just really kind of quietly stunned at all the node action going on here. It's kind of like DiCaprio had to play this guy. And also,
Yeah.
where do we have DiCaprio's chart solo here?
Oh no, so I just got them together because
Okay.
but I know his chart well enough. Do you want his ascendant?
Yeah, which is it?
Um, I can look it up really quickly, and you keep talking, and I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, well, that's one thing I can do is keep talking.
Okay, you
By the
keep
way,
talking, and I'll tell you exactly where his ascendant is.
this program is sponsored by next week's unscheduled solar eclipse. Please, everyone, be prepared to crouch in superstitious terror.
It falls on my Saturn. It's my Saturn
Oh,
return. I'm that
oh,
old, right? 29 Pisces, right? So God help me. Um, Opposite, I should say. No,
that's one of the great things about
Libra. It
astrology.
is Libra.
You can always find something to panic about if you want.
Yeah. Oh, who was panicking about Void of Course Moon earlier? I'll give a hint. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So ascendant is at 3 degrees Libra.
Oh, okay. I guess that's why he's such a fine looking boy.
You think he's funny looking?
No, fine looking.
Fine looking. I
That
didn't
was
say
my
funny.
that was my terrible attempt at a Newfoundland accent, and I do apologize. Um, but yeah, okay, so oh, classic ascendant Libra ruled by Venus, and Venus is in second house, right?
Yep.
So
Venus. Yes, second house. Beg your pardon. Yep.
it's like ruler of the second house and the first house. I I make money because I look good. I mean, he's
Yeah,
talented, very talented, but he also has a certain decorative quality to him.
he does. Point taken. Yeah. Even as he gets older, he's somebody that he's aged quite well. And when I get to Christopher Walken, I got plenty to say. But yeah,
Oh, good.
okay. Um, Leo does have that quality.
Yeah, him and J Lo might outlive all of us.
Uh, well, he's going to live on through his films. He's done enough good ones.
Yeah,
So the next chart I'm going to show, now this is going to be a bit complicated, but it'll have Frank in the very middle, Leo in the middle, and then the transit for when the film is released. Now, the why this
right.
is important is because our transits kind of give us opportunities, and the transits will kind of flavor what the world thinks of us. And I've used the first release of the film. And again, it's because when the film is released, it's when everyone becomes aware of, the power of the film, reviews get written, and the first release is our first sort of look at the film. So it can be a bit complicated, but I find that looking at it this way also helps us spot conjunctions and oppositions really easily. So let me just help us get our way around here. We have Frank Jr. in the very, very center. Leonardo is in this middle bit here. And then the transits for when the film was released into the world is on the outside. Keep in mind, we're working with a noon chart with Frank, so be careful that descendant. It's not, unfortunately, we can't call that Neptune on the descendant.
Well, now take a look at that big strip of Scorpio there.
Absolutely. If you were going to say it, I was.
Yeah, this this movie probably almost demanded to be made. And as I understand it, Spielberg had the rights for a long time, but he just had to keep, for whatever reason, keep pushing to get it made, which is
Yeah.
weird because it's Spielberg. And if Spielberg says, I want to make a movie about a 20-pound salmon who learns how to tap dance, it'd be like, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, and we got the nodal thing going on too. We got
Yeah.
the actors, planets piled on that node, and we got the transiting planets, Venus. Well, it's not a film about unattractive people, and it's also a film about money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Leo in this film, both as an actor and as playing a real life person, Frank had pulling power. There's a great scene where he's telling all the women, "Oh, I got is it 8 places for you to
Yeah.
join my particular sort of company," and they're all running out behind him, holding his hand and wanting to touch him. You know, there was real pulling power. In what Leo was tapping into and what the transits released to us when the film came out.
Yeah. Let's see. So the outer wheel is the pre
Can
premiere,
I
right?
can I can I point here?
Yeah.
We got the sun in Sagittarius right on Frank Abagnale Jr.'s Jupiter.
Makes
What's being
sense to me.
highlighted? What are we talking about? We're talking about this very clever guy who's milked every single opportunity available to his advantage. And he's gotten away with it. It's infuriating if you think about it. How would you feel if you were on that plane that this guy was flying? You had no experience flying whatsoever. And there you
And
are, a passenger, completely oblivious to the danger that you could be in.
which is which is kind of interesting because like, and he was other things like a surgeon.
Mhm.
And God, yeah. Anyway, so he, and it's like, you wouldn't want him to be the guy who takes out your appendix. But the thing is, look at this man's life. He he got away with like being a total con, and then he ended up basically getting a legit job out of that. And then he got paid for his autobiography. And then, oh, someone wants to buy the movie rights. Oh, it's Steven Spielberg. It's like, has this man ever been punished for anything? How?
No, he got away with everything. It's an incredible story of fortune and luck, and all brought out by that stuff with Jupiter in its rulership in Sagittarius, and the sun highlighting that on the movie's release. So incredible film. If you haven't seen Catch Me If You Can, you're missing out on a real treat. Maybe not. I'm not sure how to put this really. Maybe that's a immutable sign. If it's something to emulate or something to not, because
Yeah.
Frank made a lot of money and he spent some time in jail, but he is now a very successful informant.
Yeah.
So from the very people that actually caught him eventually.
And
So
it's
go
such
ahead.
a cliche, but it's true. But if you look back at Frank Abagnale's, the more I look at this, the more I think that the moon is in Sagittarius, because it's kind of, I try to avoid astrological cliches whenever I can. But if someone has been as consistently frickin' lucky as he has been, you have to expect some Sagittarius in there somewhere, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't want to. Yeah, well, I can't even claim to try to avoid cliches because I love a good meme myself. But but you're right. I mean, gets away with everything, and just the if you think about Jupiter, the god, he took every opportunity he could. He was a shower of gold to Dana. He was a shivering, cold little bird on the windowsill of Hera, who eventually became his wife. He took whatever he could. He just got, he had that ability to take advantage of anything in front of him. And perhaps
Yeah,
this might be one of the reasons why, the Jupiter energy or the fifth house energy or Sagittarius energy is also associated with gamblers.
yeah,
People who can't quite stop gambling because they think they're going to get lucky.
yeah. Zeus was very good at being a bad husband, wasn't he?
But he got away with it.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah.
what kills me, what makes me laugh, is that there's a satellite going around Jupiter, the planet now. It's called
All
Hera.
right.
Hera, his
Checking up
wife,
on our
right?
husbands.
You
Yeah.
know, you can never quite get away from it. It's always made me laugh. So the last bit I want to talk about is some movies that got away from the film. So Catch Me If You Can um, didn't quite have the connections that I wanted to this next actor, which is my favorite actor, and that is Christopher Walken. Now, I am a super fan, and I don't want to go too much on a tangent because maybe Matthew doesn't share my passion for Christopher. But
For
the movie,
Christopher Walken? Are you
I,
kidding me?
okay, I don't think your passion and my passion is quite the same, but okay, okay. But this movie, I
Right.
really wanted to put in to Christopher Walken. Sorry, Christopher Walken into my book, and I couldn't get a foothold on it enough without stretching and breaking my own rules and my own methodology. So I couldn't put it in, but I can talk about it now. Um, there's a couple things that attract me. First of all, I've done a lot of work on mystic moments, and here we have a dated mystic moment. So he had a dream, and weeks later, he discovered his family had the same dream. And months later, he made the most shocking discovery of his life. Now, Whitley Strieber, who has written the book Communion, is a very popular sort of fringe writer. He did a couple other um, books. Oh, name slipped my mind. With another writer, and they wrote Nature's End and a few others
Yes.
together. But Whitley went off on the deep end with Communion. It's about an alien abduction. It was quite a far out film, a little bit scary, a little bit too weird, and the only man who could play this part was Mr. Walken.
Yeah.
And I think when this film was released, he was just fresh off of Dead Zone, a Stephen King film. And I'm going to say I think the Dead Zone is Christopher Walken's finest film.
You rule.
I know I do. He was just a fan. That was a great film. And if you haven't seen the Dead Zone, you need to see it. It's
Oh, yeah.
the book is great, Stephen King book, but one of the best interpretations of a Stephen King book, and really well worth watching. Seeing Christopher Walken at his physical beauty. Okay, well maybe the Deer Hunter had him as a young man, gorgeous and all that, but the Dead Zone had him too. But the community is not too far off of that. I, I, I still think he's gorgeous. He's 82 years old, but I still think, we'll change the subject quickly. And because we were doing your film and not mine, I'm just jumping straight into the tri whale.
Okay,
And
but this means that I have to have you on my thing sometime, and we'll get off on a big tangent about Shakira. let's say.
Oh,
Deal?
okay, a deal. Absolutely. I would love to.
Sorry, go
So,
on.
no, no. You like Shakira? Hmm.
A bit, yeah.
Well, I like Shakira, you know. Uh, I think she's fantastic. So I did what I could to bring this in, and this is why I couldn't quite do it. Oh, excuse me. This is Frank Abagnale Sr. and Christopher Walken. Catch Me If You Can. So I'll just gloss over this quickly because I made a mistake there. This is the one I wanted to talk about. So this is Whitley Strieber in the middle, and then Christopher Walken on the second wheel, and then Communion when it was released. And I think this story is about the trines. Christopher Walken almost stepped in too easily into this film, that it was almost like he was playing it himself. You know, he's just this weird, quirky guy, and he's playing a weird, quirky guy, and it almost over over egged the pudding on this. Now, I do have a time chart for Whitley Strieber, but not a time chart for Christopher Walken. So we got to be very careful about the moon. But if you look at Christopher's moon up here, the moon's going to move, 13 degrees in a day. I'm using time chart, so 6 or 7 degrees either way. He's got the moon in Aquarius. Oh, what a shock! You know?
Yeah, really.
Um, but his Mars, which isn't going to move very much, the North Node was transiting that when the film was released. You know, so what are we seeing in this film? We're seeing Christopher Walken at his weirdest.
Yeah.
Um, now we can't look at the transiting moon because we don't know the exact time. It'd probably be later in the evening. Don't know that for sure. But the moon would have been in Aries, so picking up Christopher Walken's solar energy. But I thought this Venus conjunction in Taurus was interesting. So here is a man who's been abducted by aliens and is trying to convince all his friends and his family that this has happened to him while appearing sensible. And of course, he can't talk about this incident and appear that way, sensible, that is. Everybody thinks he's lost his mind. And of course, he's a writer, he's well off, he's a well-respected person in his community, but he's had this bizarre experience, and he's trying to justify, you know, trying to make out that this is just a normal thing, and he can't quite pull it all together. We got a lot of planets in Gemini matching up here too. Whitley Strieber is a writer and a good one, a highly successful one, and Christopher Walken is a dance man. He's a man who has many talents, and we
Yeah.
got Saturn picking up on Whitley's Uranus Mercury conjunction. So there's a lot of things going on in there that says, Christopher Walken was able to understand that and, pick up on the little pieces that Whitley Strieber maybe, that I don't think they quite got their story. I don't think it fell into place well enough. It was panned by the critics. Critics hated it. And I gotta say, I liked it, but only because it was Christopher Walken, only because I was familiar with Whitley Strieber's work. And then we have the Jupiter thing going on again. The North Node conjunct Whitley Strieber's Saturn North Node and Christopher Walken's Jupiter picking that up. Here's a respectable man being taken to bizarre places with his family, because his family all got involved on this as well. And then we have transiting Chiron on that. So we see, the real suffering of this character as he tries to bring his story to life unsuccessfully, I got to say. So fascinating film, but you have to I think you need astrology really to understand it fully. Otherwise, it just seems like a really badly made, strange film.
Well, for the record, the book is better than the movie.
Yeah. Whitley Strieber's done some great work.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Uh, War Day. That's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah, but as far as just once again, I mean, looking at this one, we compare the Christopher Walken's in the middle, right?
so we got Whitley in the very inner and
Okay,
Christopher in the middle.
and who's that on? Oh,
And the outside is the transits for when the film was released.
Right, right, okay. You know, and this is kind of just sort of a personal thing for me as an astrologer when I'm looking at these things. Whenever anything big happens, it pretty much can't happen without the nodes being involved somehow. And I mean, there's situations where, a pipe bursts and floods your basement, and that's not necessarily anything happening to your Neptune that day. You know what I mean? Or you
Mm.
get diagnosed with high blood pressure on a day when nothing is annoying your Mars. But when it comes to almost anything that becomes a matter of historical record, the nodes have to be there. Now, I don't know how to explain that. And maybe I've just got old astrologer syndrome and I'm hallucinating things that no one else has seen before. You know, like, well, I won't
But
mention the previous astrologer because he's dead, but he went off the rails near the end. Anyway, sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, just to repeat, that's what I found, and,
Yeah,
and I'm, because I'm a research astrologer, I don't go for the cherry picking stuff. I can't see it once and say, oh, that's how it is. I'm going to have
yeah,
to see it 100 times, or maybe more before I could say, okay, the majority of people that I've seen play real people, there's a nodal connection between them, or there's something to do with the film's release that makes their story um, like carry out into the world. And so, as much as I would just like to say the no's are just mathematical points, my evidence is saying differently.
yeah, yeah. And, if you read enough fringe physics, yeah, it's the entire universe could be a single point. Who knows? But that two of the things I've noticed that I've over the years is that node thing. Two of the things I've noticed that no one else seems to have noticed. The node thing when it comes to important events of almost any importance. And whenever there's a mass shooting, that Mars is almost inevitably on the angles.
Well, I did a bit of work on boy shooters, and I could name 3 or 4 cases where the sun has been conjunct Mars as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Barry Lucatus, Kip Kinkle, um, and a few others. So, astrology is such a rich field, and we have to be careful to cherry picking, of course. But I think and it's so easy to go down different rabbit holes. I think that if you just advice to people that are interested in astrology or not, you know, pick your rabbit hole carefully, and make sure that you're following a methodology and stick to it. Because if you start muddying up that methodology, you're going to actually not create a good case for whatever it is that you're trying to say in the first place.
Yeah.
So choose your tools and stick with them.
And I really think that forgive me, but more astrologers, not you, of course, more astrologers kind of need to learn a little more astronomy,
Yeah.
maybe learn a little more about probability, because otherwise you'll start sounding even crazier than you were in the first place.
That is a problem with being an astrologer. People, as soon as you say you're an astrologer, they assume uneducated and a little bit loopy.
Yeah.
Whereas my experience of astrologers is actually the opposite. Most of the astrologers I know are extremely well educated, extremely well read. They may have gone through the loopy phases, but they got their feet firmly on the ground. That's my experience. And we have exceptions, of course, in our field. And, just to encourage, you don't, as Kepler allegedly said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, um, look at the field before you get dismissive. And if anything, it's just a load of fun to practice different statistics and look at the evidence in front of you before you dismiss it and throw it away.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And and the same kind of mental skill set it takes to become an astrologer can also make you really good at arguing if that's your mindset. Unfortunately, that's been
Because
me
you're
for
always
10 years.
arguing. Except when you get to be like me, I'm just like, oh, you know what? I can't, because people ask me, oh, do you really believe in that? And my answer is usually is no, I practice it. But I can't be bothered when someone asks me, can you explain why astrology works? No, you go do your homework. Can you
Uh,
explain precession of the equinox? No, you explain precession to me. And I'll see if I agree with you. I try to turn it around on them so that they're the ones, that have to do the explaining. There's
yeah,
a museum here in London, Mithraean Museum, and I love it there. But we always end up arguing about precession. And I tell the astrologers, I always bring astrologers there, just enjoy the moment of having these clever people thinking that they can explain precession better than you. You can do it. And just enjoy that moment of these people being paid all this money to explain precession. And, it's part of your early toolkit as an astrologer, as a
yeah.
student.
And if you're going to be in the business for more than 5 years, when it's speaking of procession, I've just noticed there's been yet another outbreak of this, and it happens about like every 4 or 5 years, where you get the sudden outbreak of news stories where, oh well, astrology can't work because your sun has changed.
Oh yeah, the
And
Confucius, yeah, the 13th sign, yeah,
oh God, no, people, just no.
yeah. It is funny. I mean, because you would think that that's been debunked enough. Even Snopes has debunked that, and
Yeah,
it still carries on. But it is something that there are enough people that hate astrology, but don't realize that they are actually made from the stars, which kind of kills me.
yeah,
Um, how can you hate astrology? I don't understand, but I guess maybe they don't feel they fit into their sun sign. I don't feel I fit into my sun sign.
oh yeah, oh
Um,
yeah,
we have to try to teach people that it's more than just your sun sign. There's actually a whole lot more to it than that. And which is
yeah,
why I'm, bringing to a close, Matthew, why I admire your work. You were one of the first astrologers who went beyond that. And no, you did.
oh,
Well, I noticed. Yeah, so I
I
really
did it for you.
thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation, and it's a pleasure just connecting with you again. And
Absolutely.
don't
Same
see you often
here.
enough. And I look forward to being on your podcast talking about Shakira.
Oh yeah. All right.
Thank you, everyone. And join us for more Astrology in Real Life. I have Louise Eddington coming. I have my publisher, Margaret Cahill, coming. We got lots of good stuff happening on this podcast. Astrologers are queuing up or lining up to join this podcast to talk about their favorite film. So the criteria is it has to be a biopic, a film about a real life person and the actor who portrayed them. So have a good night wherever you are. And thank you, Matthew.